Welcome, everybody. This afternoon, we're just going to be having a really informal discussion of local chapters and local chapter leadership and how to promote your chapter, how to set up a chapter, and those types of topics. You all know me. I'm Megan. I'm the Executive Director of the Free Market Medical Association. I'm going to let Mindy introduce herself.
Mindy McClure, Marketing Technologist for Free Market Medical Association.
Oh. Casey Kennedy, Free Market.
Casey's going to be jumping up and down, taking photos and stuff, so she'll be in and out. Some of the topics we're going to go over this afternoon, why we have local chapters, how to set one up, the rules and guidelines, how you build and grow your chapter, and then some discussion. But if you guys have questions during it, please just feel free. We have apparently our newest FMMA member, LK, is going to toss you the toss ball mic, so we get it on video. So if you have any questions, just feel free to grab the mic and ask them. So the first topic is why we have local chapters, and I want to see real quick by a show of hands, how many of you in here are part of or already are leader of a local chapter? Oh, the vast majority of you, good, okay. Well, there's some slides we can actually skip then. Oh, I'm sorry, I was using the... It'd help if I turned it on, right? Okay.
I'll do it.
One of the reasons we have local chapters is to grow the movement. You guys know that you know what's happening in your community better than anybody else, right? You know who the good guys are, you know who the bad guys are, and you know what resources you need. And that's one of the reasons that the founders decided to have local chapters back when we first started. We are now up to 18 local chapters, and most of them are state-based, but there are some states, like the great state of Texas, that actually has 3 chapters because of how big they are. Yeah. And Oklahoma has 2, and a couple of the other states have multiple chapters. If your community is spread out enough, you can have more than one chapter in a state. Who in here needs to know what the steps are to set up a chapter? Okay, we've got a few of those folks. Well, first you're going to find your team members because it requires us to have one local spokesperson, which has to be a buyer or seller. Vendors are not allowed to start a local chapter. And then you need to find somebody that will support you in that effort. The contract that we do actually has 2 signature lines for a spokesperson and a co-spokesperson. So there has to be at least 2 people to form a local chapter. And then you get approval from us, and I'll go through those steps here in just a minute. There is a contract that we have everyone sign. It is kind of like a limited licensing agreement plus some codes of conduct that everyone has to follow, and those are available on our website.
Branding rules.
Yeah, branding rules, things of that nature. And then we request that the local chapters meet regularly, at minimum 3 times a year, although we really encourage you to meet more often than that. Some of the folks, like the Austin chapter, they meet monthly. The Oklahoma City chapter meets quarterly, typically. Unfortunately, our last meeting was canceled due to a tornado threat. Because we didn't want to put anybody, we didn't want anybody to die in the meeting. So we recommend that you really meet regularly, have conversations, reach out to each other, those types of things. We're going to talk a little bit about the rules and guidelines, but again, if you need a copy of that agreement, it is available on our website for you to review, and we can talk about it with you separately as well. There's a local chapter recognition form that you have to fill out. And like I said before, you have to have at least 2 members, and they have to be active members of the National Association. We really want the local chapters to encourage all of the people that attend their meetings and are part of their groups to join the association. We do a lot of work to connect various folks with each other, and if we don't have the information about somebody that could be helpful to another one of our members, it's not as effective. So we really, really encourage you to promote joining the National Association. It's not very expensive. Every year we try to keep that cost way, way down. If you need some assistance in explaining why they should join, feel free to reach out to one of us and we will help them and you form a strategy to promote that to your, I'd say membership, but your attendees. I've already stated a local chapter cannot be started by a vendor facilitator tier. It has to be started by a surgery center, physician, self-funded employer, someone in one of those two tiers, a buyer or a seller. We don't ever want there to be an incentive for a vendor to start a local chapter in order to promote their own product exclusively and drive sales. That's the reason for that rule. Obviously, everyone that's in charge of the local chapter must promote and abide by the pillars of the FMMA. I'm sure you all are very familiar with those. They are on our website. And we do not like it's prohibited for anyone to charge a fee to attend your gatherings. We don't want anybody to be prohibited from taking part because of expense. And we just really want as many people to be able to participate in those local chapter events as possible. Now, some chapters have some realities where they have to rent space to meet if they're going to do it in person, or they have to, spend some money on some technology that would allow them to have video conference calls and things like that. And they choose to have sponsors that will give them those dollars. However, sponsors of your local chapter events must be a member and they must have gone through the vendor review process, because we don't want anybody outside of the organization coming in and passing themselves off as a free market friendly vendor or facilitator without them having been vetted. We provide a local chapter email address. So for example, the Austin email is austin@fmma.org. And we require the local chapter heads or one of their designated representatives to monitor that email, because people do come and email through our website to get in touch with the local chapters. So we provide that as a courtesy and a service so that, they're not, a ton of people don't have your personal, email addresses. Again, blatant self-promotion. If you have a service that you're really excited about that you want to talk about, that is perfectly fine. That kind of goes along with the rule of we don't want a vendor to start a local chapter so that they can just promote their products exclusively. 3 meetings annually at minimum. We recommend you may have a few more if you have the ability to do so. They don't necessarily have to be in person. There's some really good technology available that's very low cost or even free that would allow you guys to do video conferencing, telephone conferences, and things of that nature. We've even seen some folks do some online, like Facebook group posts where everybody agrees to meet at a time and discuss via, on the computer. So there are some options there for that. But staying in regular contact with those in your chapter is very important for the success of the chapter. We do have a few social media rules, and we're going to go into those a little more deeper later. But if you have social media accounts, we have to be admins on the accounts, just in case you ever decided that you were going to give up the chapter or you post something that's against the pillars, things like that. And occasionally we will go in and share things onto your page that we think that your followers might enjoy. We provide you with a local chapter logo that needs to be used in all of your correspondence and social media. And if you have any sort of web presence, that needs to be used there. And again, following the pillars on social media.
Back in the early days.
Microphone.
We're okay for Q&A.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, you're fine.
Back in the early days of the local chapters, I know there was some discussion, and you and I had that about dues. You say you don't want any financial barriers. I get that now. Does that include, some kind of yearly, very small dues that kind of help direct this? Sometimes we can't get total 100% funding by sponsorship of some of the things, some of the speakers who aren't bringing in, or some of the venues. What's the position about dues for your participation?
We prefer not to have dues, but have you tried asking for donations? And let folks know, hey, we need to raise X amount of dollars. Can everybody give us $5 or $10, to pay for this speaker or this venue?
So that's okay.
Yeah, donations are perfectly acceptable. And we can, again, that's an ongoing evolution of the local chapters. For a long time, we had like 3, Oklahoma City being one of them. So it wasn't something that had come up. But we can continue that discussion if you guys feel like you're really running into some sort of like roadblocks. But a lot of folks have had good luck with asking for donations, even small donations. Now, a lot of folks have talked to us about, not only launching their chapter, but growing the chapter. And this can be really difficult depending on the area you're in. Some folks have it really easy because, the local community is hungry for that knowledge. Or they have another chapter that's close by and they're just opening a chapter that's, more convenient. But the best way to start and really grow your chapter is start with the people that that you're already familiar with. You can call us, see who the members are in your area, or you can log into the website. Every single member has the ability to log in and search through the entire membership. You have the full contact information for every single member. So you might want to start there. Talk to your friends. Schedule a dinner, meeting, coffee, and then start inviting your friends that are your friends on Facebook or your friends in business. And just have them over and have a conversation about whether or not that they would want to be involved in that. You can even choose to send out a postcard to local businesses to get more employers interested, and just, maybe something brief that says, we're going to be talking about how to reduce the cost of healthcare. Would you be interested in joining us? It doesn't have to be fancy, just even reaching out, because, that's a pain point for a lot of folks. You can send emails out to groups. Once you, build some folks that are interested, there are some mass email programs that you can use to reach out to everybody, and we're going to go through that more in a minute. For the docs in the room, a lot of your patients might be interested in, they're already patients, especially if you're a DPC. They already value the free market and cash pricing because they've chosen to be your patients. Some of those might be CEOs. They might offer a service. One of the most recent self-funded clients and FMMA members, they were fully insured until the CEO was talking to his direct primary care provider about how much the health costs were going up for his employees. And the DPC, it was Dr. Davenport, said, hey, you can offer this to your employees. And it's really amazing because they brought in a TPA and talked about it. They went self-funded, and they're on point to save $1.2 million in the first year from, using free market providers, good plan design, and incorporating direct primary care into their plan. So there could really be some folks that you are already talking to and networking with and providing services for that could potentially be great members for you and grow your business and your local chapter down the road. Promoting it on social media. I think most of us in this room are all connected on Facebook and Twitter somehow, even LinkedIn. Cross-post. Ask your other fellow FMMA folks to share your post. We're starting a local chapter. This is going to be awesome. See if you can get some additional folks that you may not have thought of. And it's really low cost. What is it, a few dollars to promote a post or boost a post on Facebook. We already talked about contacting the people that are already free market warriors, reaching out to direct primary care physicians if you're not one. If you are one, reaching out to your colleagues in the area if you have some. Look online and see if you can find some cash-based surgery centers in your area. We run across those all the time. We'll be Googling, cash surgery in some such city or town for somebody that we've got on the phone. And we run across surgery centers all the time that haven't heard of FMMA yet, but are already involved in the movement in their own way. Reach out to them. Go visit them. Say, hey, we're starting this local chapter and this is what it's all about, and would you be interested in participating? There are way more free market friendly folks than any of us have discovered yet. So that's a really big country. Again, self-funded employers in your area. Most employers, once you get above a certain size, if they're above about, what would you say, Melissa, 150, 200 employees, it is a very high possibility that they're self-funded. Even some of the smaller ones, I know of self-funded employers in the 50 to 60 range, depending on their industry. But, go talk to them. See if they want to be involved. And even if they're not self-funded, they may want more strategies to help them. The small businesses can be it's very difficult for them to truly embrace the free market. There are some strategies that you can help them with, or we can help them with. But that conversation, they really need that assistance. So employers, patients, direct primary care providers, surgery centers, just friends in any industry. Just reach out to everyone to start to grow that. Our newest member is a little upset. A lot of our folks have found it very helpful to join their Chamber of Commerce. I have surgery centers and DPCs and other employers that are actually getting a lot of traction, not only in their local chapter, but with getting more patients and more employers into their practices and facilities by presenting to the Chamber of Commerce, being involved, being there as a resource and an expert for those folks. A lot of people don't think of that, but it was actually suggested to me by a couple of our direct primary care docs. There in your area, there are probably trade associations. Like for example, in Oklahoma, there is the Association for Electrical Co-ops. There is a Oklahoma Manufacturers Association. All of these trades have associations. Go talk to them. They're always looking for, and speaking as, I'm sure they would agree with me, as an association, we're always looking for benefits and expertise and other services that we can offer our membership. And when folks come to us and say, we have something that can help your membership, we stop and listen. And all of the other association executives I know, I actually belong to an association of association executives, and they say the same thing. If we can find an expert to come in and offer a true value to our membership, even if they just want to start coming to your local chapter and participating, they can promote it to their membership. Say, we have something that you all may be interested in, free event, come have some coffee and let's discuss how to fix healthcare. There's not many people that are going to say, I really don't want to have any part of that anymore. It's getting more and more, a hot topic. So that would be a good place to check. I'm going to take some water real quick. Does anybody have anything so far? Comments? Questions?
I would just, one comment about the chamber, I would just be aware of your surroundings, because a lot of these chambers are highly funded by the insurance cartel.
That is true.
So you need to be a little bit wary about where you are. In Illinois, which, we're 50th for everything that should be first, and first for everything that should be 50th. But just be aware of that. The trade show type of thing is better, I think, in our particular area. But just be aware. Insurance got a huge stranglehold. Their cartel is very powerful.
And we've run to that too.
Is it an issue that you can't get your foot in the door in the chamber? Like, they won't let you talk, they'll keep you out, or they oppose what you have to say, or just ignore you?
Well, I think it would be maybe ignoring, but they really work again. It's a very crony capitalist state in Illinois, and so anything that's small or disruptive like this, frankly, you probably run as much risk in where I am, tipping them off to what we're trying to do and giving them the
Better
ability to
stuff, right?
figure out how to squash you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's almost, you could almost just be kind of selling them the playbook to kill you. On some levels.
That is a very good point.
Would Rotary be the same kind of thing, like to ask to speak in front of a Rotary group or a monthly meeting?
That I'm not sure, I mean, because I don't think, the chamber is all based on money and contributions, so it just depends on, like everything else about money, but.
Well, I think some of the difference when you join the chamber and then you go to those after hours, you're gonna often see the agents themselves doing their own networking, so you're, definitely the enemy in the room. Whereas if the like Kiwanis and Rotary and so forth, there you're likely to be facing decision makers rather than on the ground.
That's a very good point. Did everyone hear what she said about Rotary? Can you repeat it into the mic real quick?
I think that the chambers are likely the folks that are the agents and that they'll be the enemy, where the Kiwanis group, the Rotaries, and some of those more executive type of organizations, first of all, they welcome and are always looking for speakers to bring value and content, and the folks that generally join and or attend those are the decision makers in the group, and I don't think that just by their bylaws and the nature of the organizations, I think that they are more welcoming and more business oriented, and so your message is likely to be at least heard and not necessarily feasted on.
I agree, and I think it really depends on, can you hand in the mic? It really depends on the state. Some state, some localities, their chambers are drastically different than others. So again, knowing your own community and the Rotaries, that is a very good suggestion.
Segue to that, or follow up on that. We all have CEOs on panels, I'm sure, or somebody, a CFO or an HR person on our panel, find out if they're entities, service organizations, and get an invite that way. That's probably the most effective tool. Kill two birds with one stone.
I agree.
I would say also speaking at SHRM.
Toss her the mic, huh?
Organizations, which is Society of Human Resource. Speaking at SHRM, organizations, they are always looking for great people, and gosh, we have an active group of human resource people.
And it depends on the leadership at SHRM in your local area, because there are some states where they're, again, really invested in the broker and carrier community. And there's actually a business group that the executive director of that business group, and it's in Houston, not to call it anybody in Houston, but their executive director loves what we're doing.
Right.
He has been telling his employer members about it on the side because he can't talk about it in their main meetings because all of their funding comes from the BUCA. And so he will ask me for information and he sends it to them through his personal Facebook or his personal email to his membership and then has them distribute it to each other because he cannot promote it officially. Underground Railroad.
I would also suggest everybody go like in Houston, where I will be from, as opposed to in. But in Houston, we have a really strong chapter of CPAs. So the Texas Society of CPAs Houston chapter has regular events where you talk, etc. And to get qualified to have offer CPE or professional education is very easy. And again, you have CFOs, accountants, people who are big influencers to do this.
Oh yeah, I agree.
Any experience with entrepreneur groups? Also have the young entrepreneurs. They meet regularly.
Yes, I actually know some of the folks at that group because of they're part of the Association of Association Executives. They come down there frequently. I mean, they've never asked us to participate yet. I do know some folks involved and they're interested in what we're doing. But so far it hasn't gotten very far because I've only known them a few months. But if you have contacts there, we're more than happy to reach out.
We also have 1 Million Cups in Waco. I don't know if y'all have heard of that organization, but it's entrepreneurs that come and pitch their business, and it's free. And you just go and it's cups of coffee, and they want 1 million cups served, nationally, however so often. So anyway, it's a great opportunity to sit down and or to stand up in front of people who have an entrepreneurial mindset and pitch your business. And even if they're not interested in your business, they know somebody that is. And I found that that's been very helpful.
That's great. It's a great suggestion. Would you email me information about that so I can distribute it? Sure. Just so you guys know, most of you are already involved in this. We have a local chapter leaders closed Facebook group where everybody can go in there and post questions and have discussions and post suggestions like what she just said. And I'm going to post that in our local chapter group. If you have formed a local chapter already, make sure to go and ask to join that group so that you can be part of those discussions. I think we're going to talk briefly about meetings and events. We've already sort of covered the 3 meetings a year. One of the things that I really wanted to discuss, there's quite a few local chapters. It seems like kind of split into thirds. 1/3 does very, very informal meetings where they have mostly roundtable discussions. Everybody introduces themselves and they just have conversations. There's a 1/3 that does a combination of the roundtable discussions and then sometimes bring in speakers and other things. And then there's a few that like to have these big knockout events that have paid speakers, full AV, they rent a location to have it, and they have, they promote it, and they have 300 or 400 people there. We have found, for those of you that are getting ready to start or are looking to change up your chapter a little bit, we've found over the years that the first 2/3, the more informal and the sometimes having a speaker, but also having meetings where it's just, those of you that are really involved having real conversation about what you need to happen in your community, those are the most effective at building buy-in at the local chapter level. The big events can be really, really great, but they don't have the long-term buy-in. You don't have repeat visitors and repeat folks that really just want to promote the movement. You're going to get way fewer out of those big events because they don't have time to get to know each other and have conversations. Is anybody in here, have you guys in Austin frequently have the more round table and then with some topics and things like that? Do you want to speak to that for a couple of minutes?
I don't think, maybe Sean, do you want to talk about that? I think Sean better.
Oh, I didn't see Sean. Whoop. Good job.
So we did a first meeting, and I think it was really trying to get the word out and get some, media attention, and we paid for a photographer who rented the place and all that kind of stuff. And then when we added up all the costs, I said, "There's absolutely no way I can do that all up here, much less 4." So at that point, we said, what we really need to do is, in Austin, people were from a lot of different areas around Austin. So we said, a lot of people said, "Hey, well, are you going to be north?" Because Austin practice
Hideous, yeah.
you can go south, west, east. And so we had one meeting up north, and then we sent out surveys, and there were like 2 people that said that was awesome. The rest of them were like, you know what, Central's probably good. So what we ended up doing is we were in the good fortune of advantage benefits client down there, the Independent Bankers Association of Texas. So they lent us their conference room. So it's really afforded us just a great venue to meet once a month. And we get together, and sometimes literally it's a couple of us looking at each other, and then there are times when it's 6 to 8 to 10 people. But I completely agree with it's got to build organically, and it has to bring value to the people that come to it. There's a lot of people that take time out of their day. And sometimes we have our members from Waco that come every month, and Gerald, they're making long drives. But the point is that it's got to add value. I think in the beginning, that relationship building, the exchange of ideas and information is really beneficial. I'm imagining though, as we grow, there's going to be larger meetings, with more topics and more speakers and things of that nature. But I think in the beginning, just getting 12 meetings under our belt, I think it's going to be a good conference.
I have one other thing. Just one other thing to say on that I think is helpful and integrate just with what he's saying, what you're saying here, is once we got that central location, and then we set a date and just said this, I don't know what it is, I think it's the second Wednesday, but whatever, the second Wednesday of every month, it's just gonna happen. So it's not like we're trying to track down the emails and make sure everybody knows about it, get it on the Facebook page. It's just like, that's on my schedule going forward in perpetuity. So the regularity of the scheduling for those of you that are looking to do that really helps too, and then it cements it. And then my attendance went up, 50%.
Right.
Just by knowing it's gonna be there.
What about new people when you start doing that? Was it newbies or just people coming back?
I think it's frankly mostly the same people, yeah. And what we need to work on, I think, is growing and getting back out there and getting the message out. I think using social media to promote it each time, we need to be more diligent about that.
And I think
Two in the back, yeah.
I think that we need to promote the idea of everybody bring a friend.
Yes.
That's
Perfect.
the easiest and best way. Social media and things like that are good for getting people to understand the concept, much less personal referrals.
And that's how the Oklahoma City chapter has grown as much as it has, because quite a few of our folks try to bring a friend every single time, and that's how the Tulsa chapter is growing as well.
You could even get someone to volunteer, like a sponsor volunteer, door prize, and everybody who brings a friend gets entered in a drawing.
There you go. Perfect. Yeah.
I like that.
Something, probably just as an idea in terms of meeting space, I guess. We're working on getting a chapter started in Minnesota, based in Minneapolis. Our office is actually in downtown Minneapolis in a co-working space. Which, any of you guys have experienced co-working spaces but
We don't have
the meccas for startup businesses and entrepreneurs who are very like-minded with free market principles. And oftentimes, it's amazing spaces in which tenants have access to common areas, conference rooms. And most of the time, if it's just a handful of people with a new group, it's free. And so, with that said, you're probably accessing a really cool space that's trendy, that looks good in pictures, as well as the opportunity to have a lot of entrepreneurs around you who could help spread the word about it.
Well, too, we use the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs has a large conference room that they let us use for free. Most of your states are going to have a free market think tank that is a sister organization to the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs. In case you were wondering, Jonathan Small, our conference host, is our president. They're good members of ours. I know quite a few of the leaders at the free market think tanks, and most of them have great space. So if you reach out to them and let them know that, you need some space, most of them are familiar enough with FMMA, or I can make an introduction. Also, community centers, rec centers, churches, if your church has a meeting space that they'll let you use, there's a ton of options that are no to very low cost that you can choose to utilize. I know for the Tulsa chapter, luckily the employer that sponsors that chapter has a very large conference room that we just use. And if we ever couldn't use the Oklahoma Council of Public Affairs, the FMMA is in a building that has a shared conference room. It's quite a bit smaller, but we could still all cram in there if we needed to.
We've even done one at SCO, the lobby. Just pulled the chairs and did it right
about
there.
that. Yeah, we did.
That was like a lot of people.
Yeah, we actually had like 60, 65 people at that one, and we just rearranged furniture for a half an hour first. A couple of the patients were a little confused as to what was going on for a second. But, after they had closed for the evening, we just pulled everything out, set up some chairs, had some snacks, and everybody hung out at Surgery Center of Oklahoma. They have a very large waiting room, though, so it's kind of handy. I would like to say, though, that having a couple of defined topics at your meeting, it can be helpful to motivate conversation. Like, for example, if you wanted to have a topic on direct primary care, or have a topic on, something that's new and innovative, or talk about something that we have been discussing. Like, for example, I know you all did a half a meeting on HSAs and DPC and all of those tax implications, kind of based on the stuff that we had written up for you guys. That can really be a conversation starter and to get more people to your meeting, but I wouldn't have the entire meeting be just one giant speaker, at least in the beginning. Promotion and outreach. What is the number one rule of marketing and growing your business if you're talking about business? Exposure, talking to your people, develop a relationship. My background is employee benefits, but I've worked, in that space for 13 years. And the most important thing is to reach out, know your people, have conversations, stay in touch. How you decide to do that is up to you, but provide them some information, provide education, post it on Facebook, make phone calls, send out emails. But staying in regular contact so that they don't forget about you is very important. Having a set meeting time, or at minimum scheduling all your meetings months in advance. Tell us, we'll put it on your local chapter page that we provide for you on our website. We will update that information, promote those. But, it's just stay in contact. However you decide to do that, everybody has different needs and different skills and different needs in their community. It's just staying in contact is very important. And you can actually, grow the membership by them taking something that you've sent them of value and forwarding it to a friend, or inviting a friend to a meeting, like we said. We've already talked about the local chapter email address. It's listed on the FMMA website. You also have your own local chapter page, so it would be fmma.org/ the name of your chapter. Folks can also get to them right on the front page by just hitting local chapters, and there's a big list, and it lists all your contact information, your meeting times, your social media accounts, and all of that. I would like to caution everybody, most people don't know this. When you're mass emailing, there's two potential issues. You can run into FTC regulations where it's required that people be able to get out of a mass email if they want to. We've run into a couple of folks that were sending emails to 50 or 60 recipients. People couldn't get off the email list and they were getting very upset. That is not good. You want to use a program that allows people to hit an unsubscribe button. The other thing you run into that most people don't even realize, that I didn't know until our IT guy told me, a few years ago, when you start blind copying multiple recipients, and even just putting multiple recipients in the to field, there is a certain magic number that no one knows exactly what it is, where the incoming mail server or the person you're emailing is going to say, this is spam, this is junk, this could be a virus, block it. First, the emails will just start going into junk, and after a few more, it's going to be blocked entirely. We actually ran into this at the FMMA. It's one reason why we switched all our email accounts to an Office 365 account, which is what all the email addresses for local chapters are now. Some folks at the local chapters were sending out these emails, and it actually blocked at fmma.org, so we couldn't email them either. It's vitally important that if you're going to be sending emails out, if it's 5 or 6 people, even up to 10 people, perfectly fine. It's when you start using the blind copy feature and getting into the 15, 20, 25 folks that you really, really have to be careful. If you guys have questions about that, we can discuss that more in depth, and I can get you in touch with some folks that's their area of expertise. You just got to be really careful about that. There are some email programs like I said, don't walk on the wild side. Let's not get at FMMA.org blocked or even your email, because I mean, if you have, a surgery center email, they could block the whole thing and then you can't talk to your patients. So you're gonna wanna use a mass email program. They are very, very simple to use. You just load your contacts in there, lets you create an email. You could even make it pretty and really simply. The 4 that I'm familiar with, MailChimp is what FMMA uses because it allows us to have the most email addresses and the most outgoing emails for the lowest cost. It is, we have a few thousand email addresses in our MailChimp, and I send how many? 3, 4, a month emails to everybody through MailChimp, and I think it's $20, $25. They actually allow you to have a free account up to a certain level and a certain number of emails per month.
I think it's 10,000.
10,000?
Last I looked, it was 10,000.
We have the fancy version at FMMA because we're designing things. So yeah, if you just want to send simple emails, MailChimp is really easy to use. I'd be happy to, help you make it look all official and pretty. It's not difficult though, I promise you. Constant Contact is another one that is very popular across the board. It is starting about $20 a month. It's a little more powerful than MailChimp, but again, you're trading off that power for the expense, for the cost. I've had a lot of folks tell me that Sendinblue and Sandblaster, which are both free, are very easy to use and very effective as well. Does anybody have any questions about mass email before we move on? Yes, Pete? Do you have the mic?
One suggestion, if you're using some of those services, usually when you do email send out everything, you always have on the bottom, sent by constant contact.
Right.
If you ask them, they'll wipe that out.
They will.
So they won't see any of their branding on there. So just make sure you...
MailChimp, it's like a text box that you just delete in the bottom. You can just turn it off.
Oh, okay, we use constant contact. So
right.
We had to actually ask them, and then they took it off like that.
Well, and if you decide to use MailChimp as well, turn off the monkey rewards. They have something called monkey rewards that has something to do with every time you click, more clicks you get, the more points you get. It's kind of annoying to the people getting it, though.
Now, if you turn that function off, does it turn off the unsubscribe?
No, it does not. And you can put copyright information and everything in the bottom if you wanted to. You write a lot of blog posts and things of that nature. If you wanted to send those out, you can actually put copyright in your footers so that if somebody uses it without your permission, it belongs to you. So.
We got templates on that?
Yes.
Okay.
Next is social media. Facebook, a lot of the local chapters that we have in here currently already have Facebook accounts. That is where we have the most presence, I believe. We have more Facebook followers than almost anything else. We have the most interactions on Facebook. I think it really depends on the demographics of who you're trying to reach. Everyone our age is more Facebook oriented, I think, than the millennials are, other folks. I don't personally use Twitter very much, but our Facebook feed flows to our Twitter. You can actually set it up where it will tweet what you post on Facebook and vice versa, correct? A lot of business folks really like LinkedIn. I leave the posting on LinkedIn to...
Well, we just started our LinkedIn page, so there's not a lot of stuff there yet.
LinkedIn and I kind of have I always get tangled up in LinkedIn a little bit, but I do know some folks that can help if you want to learn more about how to do LinkedIn. Google Plus, I don't think it really took off. I don't think very many people are using it, so I don't know that I would spend the effort to set up a Google Plus account for your local chapter. Instagram, though, is getting far more popular, especially with the younger crowd and the millennials.
They call it the gram.
The gram.
So that's just you, Casey.
Okay. I also call it all Sochmead.
All Sochmead.
It's all Sochmead. Whole thing.
So Instagram, it's mostly photo based. So you would have to, kind of figure out how that would go with your message using photos to promote your local chapter. But if you wanted to get into, like she was saying with the Young Entrepreneurs Association, you might want to consider doing Instagram.
Can I just add to that?
Yes.
You can also link your Facebook to your Twitter and Instagram, so whatever you post on Facebook will automatically notify you.
Yes.
How many, informal, how many chapters have Facebook pages specifically for their?
How many do we have? Dr. Tyndall.
What local chapters are represented here?
Tulsa does.
Tulsa does, Austin, Georgia.
We don't have Facebook.
Oregon.
Is Jack in here? Yeah. A few of you really have just started it in the last month or so.
Just an idea on Instagram, because I kind of agree Instagram is so popular right now. Such things like what images do you use?
Right.
Not necessarily just want to take a picture on your own or whatever.
Right.
There's a lot of free sites that are kind of like Getty Images. Getty Images is not free, but there's one I think called Splash.com off the top of my head. Thousands of pictures you can type in healthcare. They'll bring up all sorts of free, high quality, high res photos that you can use on the Instagram feed. So it just makes it look nice.
That's awesome. Will you send us that info so we can post it?
Thank you.
On our social media?
On the social media.
On Splash, you're right. Yeah, thank you.
Splash. You got that? Bless you.
And there are some, general guidelines that everyone recommends when you're doing social media. Post consistently, but not annoyingly. So, post, 1 to 2 times a day is probably fine. Blowing up people's news feeds with stuff, yeah, a few times a week. Depends on, how involved that your folks are with social media. It depends on which platform. Facebook, the thing with Facebook is you could get away with posting more often because unless you boost the post, not all of your followers are actually going to see it since you're on a group Facebook page. It's kind of annoying on Facebook how they do that. But again, posting more frequently on Facebook actually will get more of your content or more likely for your content to hit the people you want it to. On Twitter, people are posting all day, constantly on Twitter. I think everybody just sort of scrolls through and sees what they want to. I think it really depends on the platform, how much you post, but just be mindful of folks, unfollowing you or you not getting the response that you used to get. That may mean that you're posting either infrequently and they're not seeing it, or you're posting too frequently and they're annoyed by it and have hidden you. So you just have to be mindful of that. Things you can post. News. Healthcare is all over the news right now. Write some comments on an article and share it. Tons of people in here have great blogs. I know Bob does. I read your stuff all the time. A few other folks in here, we share your educational pieces that you write up.
Lee Gross does the coffee talk.
Yes, those are great to share. We have some stuff up on our website. If you see it on our site, feel free to share it. If you see it on the Oklahoma City Facebook page or the Tulsa Facebook page or any of your other co-chapter Facebook pages, feel free to share it. If you have a success story, we try to share things like when we see DPC success stories where they talk about how much money or how great a patient experience was. We tend to share that kind of stuff. Positive news is always a good idea to share. You want to make sure that, you're sharing appropriate education as well and that your folks are well informed. But positive stories get the best traction. So that's always a good idea.
One other thing I'll chime in. Knowing your target audience. I know that in our space that can be anybody from an individual patient for a DPC doctor to, a business owner, a TPA, or there's just several different industries that we could be targeting. But once you identify who that is, and one way you can do that just to start off and build your audience is, if you have an email list, we've talked about MailChimp and all of that. If you utilize those emails, put those in Facebook and build an audience to target messages. So it's not hard to do. Facebook is very easy. It's very user friendly. There's a very large help content on Facebook, and you can email them, chat with them back and forth, and ask for advice. And the business manager under Facebook is fairly easy to use as well. So building your audience, becoming a news source for that audience, sharing and publishing relevant content to them, becoming an expert in that area and being a news source for your audience, it makes them want to come back to your page constantly. They rely on you to post. When I go to Facebook, there are certain pages that I always go look for, so just trying to become that page that people want to keep up with. And you mentioned the live, like the Lee Gross and the coffee talks. I love that. That's one of them that I look for on Fridays. So, and because our audience for what we do is so broad, picking a target, like maybe a business owner that, that you want to highlight, go and do a live interview on Facebook. Let people, log in and watch the live interview. And the great thing about those live interviews is it saves it on Facebook, so you can come back to it later. You can share it later. So, and then
and
the
you
last,
can do it right from your phone. You don't need
right,
special
you don't
equipment
need special equipment for it. And the last thing that I really want to communicate is the engagement. The engagement with your followers is so important. I'm connected with a lot of you on Facebook, not everyone here, and I know Megan is, and we try to talk back and forth with people and just be engaged and get to know them and build a relationship. And I've met so many people at this conference that I've talked to many times on Facebook, like Dr. Nelson. I checked him in and didn't place the two. So just, building that relationship and just engaging with them, and if you've posted relevant content, let's say it's the beginning of the month, going back to your own posts and commenting or sharing it again, it just keeps your posts at the top of someone's newsfeed. So just continuing to do that. If you don't feel like you have anything really new to say, reshare something that got a lot of attention. So, it's just constant engagement, I guess.
Can I ask you a question, Mindy?
Sure.
Okay, whenever you boost the post, how much more gain do you get of an audience when you do like $20 or $6 or whatever?
Well, it depends on your audience. So if you build the right audience, Facebook is great at share. It'll tell you if you go for a zip code, or if you go for business owners, or stay-at-home moms, or just whatever your audience is that you're going for. It gauges what is available for your target. So it really depends on the target. And then you put $20 on it, and it'll tell you have the potential to reach 21,000 people. So it'll tell you when you go through that process. But it can exponentially, you get more reach.
Oh yeah.
If you just, and I've done a few of those, if you go in and select your audience,
Right.
you'll get a lower absolute number, but it'll be very, very targeted.
Mm-hmm.
You probably get more bang for your buck rather than just blowing it out there.
And you can
Right.
say only the people in your state or in your region,
Or you can say to
city.
people who like your Facebook page or their friends, or
Base,
yeah. You can.
you target it pretty well.
There's just. It's unlimited.
So when you say build your audience, you mean that little checklist of things that you can. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Gotcha.
And you can also load your email addresses in that tool as well.
And it'll hit their Facebook.
As
it's
long as
connected.
their email address is connected to that Facebook. So, a lot of times maybe you might have a business email address, but their Facebook is really tied to their personal. So you might miss the opportunity there. And that's really where, not that we're talking about LinkedIn, but LinkedIn is a way that you can reach out to those. If you have a business email address, loading those email addresses in LinkedIn, you might get more hits if you know that you have more business email addresses.
Great points. We already discussed this. We're getting about 15 minutes before 2, and the tour of Surgery Center of Oklahoma is at 3, so I want to make sure to get you guys out of here so that you have time to drive down there. Let's go to the section on local chapter requests. So you guys send us a lot of requests, which are awesome. We love getting that because, again, we want to give you the content and the resources that you need to make your chapter successful. How many of you were involved in the Facebook discussions about the no-no list? A few of you. We are running into a lot of, I will call them transparent folks who like to use the free market and transparency as a buzzword while they're not truly free market or transparent. And a lot of it's on the vendor side. I know you're all very surprised about that.
They're price parasites.
They're price parasites. There you go. So we had a discussion on the closed Facebook group about some of these that we were running into. For example, there's a really popular pricing tool that has a lot of marketing.
Give us another hint.
That has a lot of marketing. But they take a piece of the transaction. You can actually buy a surgery or buy an MRI through their site. They modify the provider's price to make it higher, and they keep the difference. How that's different than a PPO network, I don't know. But they go one step further.
It's not disclosed.
It's not disclosed to anyone. I think the providers have to know if they search their price. But, it's not disclosed to the patient or anybody else. They also are involved in financial lending. So if you're a cash pay patient, you can get a loan through their site to cover your surgery. They're taking a chunk of that too. Higher interest rates, and they're getting money for that. We were talking about that, and then we were talking about some of the new medical co-ops that are masquerading as health share ministries, but they don't actually follow all the rules and regs of a health share ministry. If anybody wants it, we can have further discussions about that, but some of the newer folks are really concerning to us on the potential way that, trying to find a way to say this, they could put patients and employers in an adverse tax situation that could be really, really not beneficial to them. I mean, it would just be terrible. So we had some discussions about that, and folks were asking, could we create what I call a no-no list? And have it posted somewhere where only the certain folks could get to it for legal reasons. We are going to be doing that. We're talking about a way that we can post that where you all, the local chapter heads, can get to it, but that it's not public. So we are going to be working on that. But if you ever have a question in the meantime about a vendor, and one of these folks actually has been reaching out to local chapter heads saying that we love their product and it's a medical co-op. We do not love their product. Everybody else that he's quoting that says that they also love their product does not either. The AAPS does not endorse them. The Association of Independent Doctors doesn't endorse them. None of the folks that he's saying are super into what they're doing have actually done that, because I've talked to all of them. So if you're getting phone calls from some vendors that you're unsure about and they're not members of FMMA, let us know, because we can help you determine whether they're actually legit or they're just using us as a way to get to your communities. Do you want to add anything to that?
Step should be, are you a member of the FMMA, and then I go with you.
Yes.
Yeah, or you talk to Megan,
Right.
Executive director, what's her name again?
Well, and the guy that prompted this whole discussion actually said, he used my name and quoted and said, I loved what they were doing, implying that the FMMA endorsed them because I supposedly liked it. None of that is true.
Sent me an email message on LinkedIn and just glowed about the great discussion we had with Megan and stuff, and really painted a very different picture, let's just say, than what was. And I think that's how it came up. And I said, oh, this guy sounds great. And he goes, oh,
Hold up.
Yeah.
And you're the third person he sent it to.
Yeah. We need that little icon, don't we, a little X?
Yes.
Well,
Right.
that,
Yeah.
on the naughty list.
Mm-hmm.
For the emoticons, we need a little X.
And if anybody wants to know who the current 5 or 6 people are on the no-no list, I will tell you, but I'm not doing it on camera. So we are recording this, so I will tell you about it after. A few of you have reached out for an educational piece on emergency room versus urgent care versus direct primary care, that kind of a handout. I've actually about halfway done with it. I have a few folks, I believe Teresa and Dr. Tyndall were assisting me, and you all heard from Dr. Kim Korba. A few different folks have been assisting me in putting this together. I have put it out in the Dropbox that some of us share. If you need a link to it, let me know. I would like more input from the medical community on that before that I publish it for all of you to use. So if you're interested in providing some information. Yes, ma'am.
The Urgent Care Association has an ER versus urgent care handout now. You might be able to.
Okay. Will you send that to me so I can see if I can add it and or use that. That would be great. And then I have a request in for a handout or a paper on how to negotiate a free market price with a non-free market provider. We have some experience in that in our day jobs, and so we are working on getting that. I actually am waiting. It'll probably be 3 or 4 weeks before we get that done. I'm trying to get with some folks that actually do this in their daily job to give some additional comment on that, but we are working on that.
Will it have, or can it have a bullet point at least about people who have insurance and want to pay cash?
Yes.
And dealing with the common issue
Yes.
of we can't, it's not legal,
Mm-hmm.
or this whole thing, that they have a right.
And I'm going to write a completely separate thing on that too.
Perfect form for that, actually,
Mhm.
you shared with me, so y'all should probably use that.
Yeah, send it over. We'll have a conversation.
I wish not to use my insurance, here's my form.
Well, and I have a sample agreement that a patient could use to, but I mean, regardless, I'm talking about folks that don't even have insurance where the provider can sign it and I agree to give you this price. So they're two different things, but they both will be included in this handout.
Our local big hospital, our big nonprofit, is so afraid of that whole issue. When I had them fax me a form for a self-pay patient for a cardiac echo. They actually make them initial 1 to 3 boxes. Either I'm uninsured or I have state-assisted Medicaid or dual eligible or whatever. And the third was I have insurance, but I elect not to use it. And then they, obviously files the balance bill and all the other things they need to do. But if they actually make you sign that, initial that you have it. And I don't know.
It probably has something to do with their network agreements more than the government.
All stem from the networks.
Just like them asking me if I had a gun in my home.
Yeah.
Use insurance?
No, it's common.
Okay.
Well, actually, I think there is something in HIPAA that says if you choose not to use your insurance for privacy reasons, they can't tell you you can't. I mean, so basically, if you want to pay cash in order to protect your privacy, HIPAA allows you to do that.
I believe you're correct. Marie, is he correct?
Right.
But as providers,
I think you need it, I think you have the right as an individual to choose whoever you want to provide services at any time.
That's true, but the HIPAA privacy rule specifically protects you on this ground.
Right,
You have the
agreed.
legal right not to be discriminated against. If you don't want to share that information with your health insurer, you have a legal right to pay cash, and they can't obligate you and force you into some insurance-based price.
Right.
That's under the HIPAA privacy rule.
as providers, those of us who straddle and still accept insurance, typically have a contract with the insurer that if the patient has Blue Cross, we will use
But the patient, they can't control what the patient does, as long as the patient,
Tell the patient to give you their
Right.
insurance information. If they say, I want to pay cash for this, they have, as an individual, a privacy right to do it. So it takes you out of it as long as they say, yeah, I'm not disclosing my insurance information to you. I don't want you to disclose the.
we have just a couple minutes, guys.
Dr. Tyndall?
Yeah.
Yes, according to Red Association of professional coders, and according to the HIPAA law, I want to write this down. We discussed this a couple times already, a couple of meetings, people ask about Medicare or Medicaid or other insurances, and for a hybrid, under cash at the same time. So there's a HIPAA form, patient right to basically correct Federal Regulation 5566, Volume 78, 17, Section 164.5.
It's easy to remember the high-tech act.
Yeah, high tech.
High Tech Act or Professional Coders Association, and they would tell you, if you do legal, you gotta have the people sign that paper. Just can't, every time you come in, for every service, we have a hybrid situation going on at the office, so every time you come in, you'll learn through the real take Medicare road, new Medicare, so every time you come in as a Medicare, you sign that form and keep your plate.
I think
Can
we
you
have
all-
time for one more.
Can you all post that on the
Yeah.
local chapter page? Can you all post that on the local chapter page?
Yes, please.
There are a whole variety, I mean, typically, the jargon is advanced beneficiary notice. So, most of y'all, if you have a healthcare lawyer, a law firm, or anything like that, most of them will be familiar with what is known as an advanced beneficiary notice, an ABN form. So, and that's basically what everybody's talking about. There are a variety of versions of that, but, you know, we provide services such as like stem cell therapy. Nobody pays for it, but we'll have Medicare patients who want to come in, but as long as they sign our ABN, I mean, you're perfectly fine. There are a variety of versions of it. There may be some state tweaks that you might have to put to it as well, but that's basically what it is. If you've got a healthcare lawyer, they should be very familiar with it, or if not, you have a healthcare lawyer.
About non-covered services, right? It's not about non-covered.
Or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, whatever.
It's the same thing.
Or whatever, it's the same thing, but it just, that's where it actually ends up applying mostly in our office. You know, I don't have a Medicare patient want to pay cash for a fusion, as an example, but if it's something else that isn't typically covered, that's where we run into it, but you can use it for anything, and everything. It's just, but like I say, it's something that a skilled healthcare attorney should be very familiar with any variety of those versions of that form and be able to get you in touch with one.
That's really great. Guys, we are at 2:00 exactly, and we're gonna lose the room soon. We booked it for a certain amount of time. So feel free, you guys can continue the discussion on your own.